lyrical content and the sound of Space Boy is quite different from Space Oddity.
Yeah.
And it fits, I think, on this record a lot more than, say, a cover of Space Oddity would.
Yes.
So what is it about
Much
the song
more intense.
Space Oddity? Yeah, the intensity of it. Which other components?
Well, one of the things I did after we did the formal recordings, and I was sitting on it during COVID lockdown, trying to just play and mix and having a feeling like I had all the time in the world because nobody was doing anything and we were all locked in and we couldn't perform, couldn't do anything. So I was just in my basement studio, just playing and playing with mixing and trying different things out. And I came up with a pedal that gives me a nice doubling to octavator that goes way up to the top end. And I started playing with that, and then I have one of my Guild Electrics has a whammy bar on it, which I can never use live because it throws everything out of tune, and I'm too hard on my guitars when I'm playing live, so but in the studio I could kind of control it and not do it quite so bad. So I started playing with that, and I got this real nice loopy thing going on in the background, this feedback stuff. So I did that and just kept it very subtle, but you just hear it kind of weaving around in the back there. So I threw that in. So that's another element that we brought into it. And then it was also something that Susanna could play with, my second guitarist could play with kind of featuring her work as kind of the main chunk lines through the whole thing. And when we both do the loud chording, but I kind of let her drive everything for the in-between lyrics for that. And I have my own little rhythm thing, but it wasn't that big of a deal, so I featured her guitar for that. And she's also the one that did the crazy electric guitar leads for the title track. I think the darkness that go along in the back. So just want to shout that out.
The lyric that really struck out to me from Hello Space Boy as particularly pertinent to the record and the themes throughout the record is, "And you want to be free, don't you want to be free?" And from the way in which you delivered that too, it seemed like that was a vocal that kind of jumped out to me, just from the delivery as well as kind of it being conceptually relevant. Does that lyric or that vocal kind of seem particularly significant in relation to the journey of the record to you as well?
Well, I think it fits in. It fits in that. How are we trapped? How are we not trapped? What are we striving for?
Yes.
What is freedom? Freedom from what? Freedom from oppression or freedom from innocence. Do we want innocence? Which means that we kind of let other people run the show and we just kind of do our little thing and we don't care about it. And when things get disrupted or somebody feels like upset about something or challenging, it's like, well, I don't know if I like that. I like things the way they are. Let's just keep it the way it is. And, we see that in politics right now, the back and forth with, seems like the Conservative Party wants to keep things kind of just the way it is. Everything's cool. Let's just leave it this way. And the liberals are like, no, we want to have more freedom. We want to be able to do more stuff. And why are you not letting us? And now we're seeing that push-pull back and forth now, and the backlashes and the consequence, and loss of rights, with the loss of abortion rights now, nationally. Who saw that coming? Nobody. I didn't. It's like it is, what is freedom? Don't you want to be free? Yeah.
What you were saying about the context of the 60s and the excitement of the Apollo mission, the speeding up of a click track with Heroin, again, kind of seems significant here. This sense of, let's go on this journey. And then once we've committed to that journey, once we've made that decision, the lyric I have made a very big decision in Heroin.
Yeah.
Now we're on this. Now we're traveling to. Where's the inlay? Now we're traveling to this destination.
Yeah.
How do we feel? Do we want to be doing that?
Yeah.
How do we feel about that? And just the sense of momentum and excitement and terror, and the sense you were saying about possibility, impossibility, and acknowledging the part of us that finds that very daunting and wants to nullify it. One possibility is nullification. Related to, I think, the kind of false innocence that you were talking about as well. How do these themes play out in the original songs? Particularly, let's zoom in on Jackie Ray.
Yeah.
Because the three verses, we have three characters. We have Jackie Ray, we have then in verse 2, Terry, and then we have a mother and the relationship between the mother and a son in verse 3.
Yeah.
There are subtle differences in the choruses related to the sometimes differing interpersonal situations of those three characters. And then also there's a bridge where there's a recognition of change in a person.
The fourth character in the song.
And so for me, with the theme of transformation being introduced in, I think, the darkness and the question, how do we change? And we've been reflecting on that in the covers too. Here, in each of the choruses, in the first one, Jackie Ray, she says, I've changed. She's saying, I've changed, all that I am. By the time we get to the second chorus with Terry, there's an important, subtle difference. There's a lot going on, I think, in the song. How does this song explore the possibility and the nature of change through these three characters?
So so those are drawing from my own experiences, and it's more of a ballad structure of song. So it's more of a storytelling, and I wanted to do, as a trans woman, I wanted to do something specifically about that, and I did Pride in Toronto, Canada, a few years ago, a number of years ago now, and I think 2016, 2017, maybe 2018. It was before COVID, and I have to get my timeline and stuff to figure it out. But I was up there, and it was a small LGBT group of people who were putting together their own stage next to the bigger production that the city put together. So, and one of the sponsors of that stage was a bar that everybody would go to, one of the gay bars there that everybody went to, and they had the stage out in front. And that one of the bartenders there was a trans woman, and very much like I describe her. Built like a biker, somebody who is not going to take any shit, and beautiful, but just like, no, you don't cross this one. And I just love the attitude that she had, just that strength, the kind of stuff that I always want for the trans women to have, that strength, that dynamic. And so I just wanted, we were going to have coffee at one point, and it just never worked.
You and Jackie Ray?
Yes, not Jackie Ray particularly, but the person I was modeling Jackie Ray.
Absolutely, yeah.
So then, so I never did get to find out what her particular story was about how she came to be there and be the main bartender at this club, and have such gravity. And so I just kind of had to imagine what might be the circumstance for it, using my own place. So the inspiration was this person, and the description was this person, but the story was an invention that I came up with, of struggling with, dealing with whatever. But as a trans woman, I understand how difficult it is to be oneself in a world that is not always accepting. And so I spun that one out in that story. And it's more about just being true to yourself and getting through whatever bullshit you have to get through as a trans woman.
Yes.
And then Terry is about all of the people that, and I've known a lot of people that have struggled with addiction, particularly alcohol. And they've got, and they've, at different variations of, have survived, have struggled, have gotten in their feet, have gotten, blown it all and gone right back to where they were, and their life is getting destroyed again. And so Terry is kind of a amalgamation of various people that I have known in my past, who some have made it and some have not, and some are still kind of lost somewhere in between. But I chose the path of someone who is really trying to get on their feet again, and fucks up.
Yeah.
And then they have to get back on their feet again.
Yeah, that moment near the end of that verse, he fucked it all.
Yeah.
After, that's so powerful, like the delivery and the fact that most of the narrative in the verse is reflecting the narrative of the first verse, where there is this commitment to transformation and the strength, and we have the character who has the achieved gravity. And it seemed, and we, for most of that second verse, we're with Terry, and there is this same commitment, and the detail of, now it's Christmas, so there is this situation where there are going to be a bunch of people
Challenges.
invited to, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's just right up until that last minute, like very near the end of the verse, where he fucked it all. That's powerful.
Because that is kind of the way it happens. It's
Yes.
like you just think, oh, okay, I can probably get away with this, and then for people who are really struggling with this addiction, it doesn't necessarily stop with that. It opens up the door.
And this is like the moment where the woman's hat gets blown away.
Sure, yeah, you could tie it into that. The structure that you build and you work so hard is just suddenly blown all
Yeah,
apart.
the chaos is killing me again.
Yeah.
So that's the point that we get to at the end of the second verse. Still, he says, I've changed all that I am, and I've changed the best I can. All of my dreams, in this instance, lay ahead in the future, whereas for Jackie Ray, all of my dreams are ahead in the future.
Yeah.
What's the significance of that subtle shift?
Well,
there?
I think Jackie Ray is set.
Yeah.
That is my future. That's my present. That is where we are, and we're going to make it work. So Jackie Ray is pretty solid. Terry is hopeful, but he's not solid because he just fucked up.
Yeah.
So but he feels like this is the track he needs to get back to. So he's like, it's there.
Yes.
I just have to put up with this and get there.
My favorite moment in the song, I think, is the transition from that he fucked it up into the chorus, where there is so much continuity. Of course, it's the chorus with the chorus, the Jackie Ray chorus, and there's the same sense of dignity.
Yeah.
And still, he says, everything was true. All of the commitment and the working against the odds and not being destroyed by the chaos, the managing to keep the hat on instead of having it be blown away by the wind. All of that was real.
Yeah.
All of that is achieved, and none of that is undone by this particular gust of wind having just happened.
A friend of mine who is someone who has successfully remained free and sober for decades now. I was frustrated with somebody in my life that I was depending on, and they were being difficult because they were struggling with a very similar situation, and this friend of mine basically said, you can never give up on anyone. No one, no matter how bad or how difficult their life appears to you, you can't give up on them because they can always find a way out.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the message that I'm trying to convey there.
That's what I love. That's why I love that bit of the song. It's really significant, I think, what's happening there and going into the chorus,
Yeah.
and that ethos that you're describing of not giving up and of being with each character and witnessing the dignity in each instance. I think is quite strongly there and significant. That's what I love about the song. As we get into this kind of bridge,
The bridge character.
then it seems more like it's you addressing someone.
It becomes personal, yeah. This is it becomes me and my struggle. So yeah, I take for that opportunity in the ballad and the storytelling, telling other people's stories. I tell my own story for that little section, and that story is of me seeing someone change, and in a way I didn't expect. I didn't expect it at all. And it was somewhat disturbing to me to see that change. And I won't go into who that is, but it is a real person. And all I could do is trust that they were doing what they needed to do to be healthy. But in the other part of the bridge, I recall before that change how impressed I was with their ability to challenge themselves for reaching for the stars and the fire.
Yeah.
And then I was there with them to experience that. So it is kind of a bittersweet change where it is giving that person the respect to be who they need to be, but there is a regret of seeing the loss of who they were.
Seems like in this moment, like there was a time when these two people had the same idea of what freedom is, and yes, we both wanted the same thing. We're going to the same destination, and now reckoning with, now there isn't the same idea of what freedom is. You've changed in ways that I did not see, and I can only hope that you are fine. And the decision to kind of trust that this person wants to be free in a way that you can't understand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
And seeing that involves a lot of commitment and intentionality, I think, to maintain that perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that was at least for me that was a difficult acceptance, but but one that I understood, and I had to just let it be.
How does this set us up for the third verse then, where we have the mother and the son?
Yes, so that one is also people that I know, and it's watching and experiencing the dynamic from a distance, but I watched the dynamic play out in this way of the child of an alcoholic parent struggling to stay together, but ultimately having that fall apart and kind of giving up, walking away, even though trying to give their regrets to having to do that. And then I tried to put myself in a position of the parent who was struggling, who obviously doesn't want their relationship with their child to be destroyed. But they're also dealing with something that is very difficult to tackle for any of us. Addiction is very difficult. And it's their trying to explain their position to their child.
Yeah.
So
the tenderness,
yeah,
and the gravity again, I think, of that. You've changed all that I am. There's an interesting twist because everything else so far has been kind of the personal development, growth trajectory. There's a character who wants to be a certain way, and in the first verse, the desire to be that and the confidence that's who I am, leads to the gravity of that's who I am. Like,
yeah.
And then in the second verse, there's this desire, and there are moments of missing the mark. And now here, though, it's not just one person desiring to be a certain way and then either hitting it or not, or missing the mark and then hitting it, but instead a person changing because of someone else, because of the way that someone else is.
Yeah, and not feeling like they're possibly not going to make it.
Mm-hmm.
But trying to explain that. It is the change element is on a few levels. It's the change of the behavior, it's a change of the person, but the desire for change is coming from different ways, and it fractions up. The child really desires change, but is kind of seeing maybe this isn't going to happen, and the parent is wishing for change, but also sees that this probably isn't going to happen. But how do we preserve some sort of relationship anyway, or at least an understanding? And that's a tough one. That verse was tough.
Yeah.
And it's very emotional and tragic. And it kind of ends with the parent explaining what they're trying to do and what they want to do, but instead of the thing that they're dealing with to get there, seems like it's just never going to go away.
The constant in all three of these cases is I've changed the best that I can.
Yeah.
And I think that is key for the song.
Yeah.
Whether we have the Jackie Ray character who, like, to us looking on, seems to have, like, the best that she can seems to be 100% achieved. The transformation is achieved. This is who Jackie Ray is. But all of these characters are doing the best that they can, is, I think, a core message of the song, with that lyric being unchanged.
Yeah, with different results for
Yes,
each one.
with different results, yeah.
Yeah. Just thinking about the lyrics, it makes me feel emotional.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
It was a very intense album.
Yes.
And lyric and content.
I mean, it's novelistic, just this song, I think.
Yeah.
And then here, we talked about the dream lyric being different from chorus 1 to chorus 2, and then here it becomes, all of my dreams I pass on to your lifetime, and lifetime, across a lifetime, is in whole in my heart too.
Yeah.
So maybe we could think about the connection between those two songs then, when there's distance across a lifetime.
I'm finding a very interesting thing, as you're talking about it, I'm realizing one of the things that I was able to do for Jackie Ray was to imagine myself in that older character's position.
Yeah.
Now, I couldn't do that when I was in my 20s. Not really even in my 30s, but I can do it from the perspective I am now.
It's harnessing that empathy, because you were saying, like, as a kid, you would cry, you would witness things like the hat being blown off, and you were being empathetic,
Oh, I
it
could
would
give you
affect you.
a
You would be very
million
sensitive.
stories about things like that.
But now
where-
this is a challenge of empathy, like the
Yes.
character who it would be so easy to observe, oh, this character keeps on messing up and how irresponsible, they have a child. Like, you know, inevitably a bunch of people are going to be just coming to that easy conclusion. But you're harnessing your empathy and consistently maintaining the voice with dignity of that character for the whole culmination of the song.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if I could have done that as a younger songwriter self.
Yeah.
The songs that I wrote when I was in my 20s and 30s didn't quite have that. They were more focused on my own experiences and my own struggles, which were significant. But that particular song, Jackie Ray, really allowed me to expand how I see the world from the perspective where I'm at. And I don't know, I can come out now. My birthday was in January, and I turned 62. So in January, I will be 63. That is amazing to me. I am well beyond where I ever thought I would be in music, working in rock and roll, being on stage, doing the kind of music and the performances I do. I'm way outside of my box right now of expectations.